Welcome everybody on this Monday evening, the Joe and Joe Weather Show, and there's our Joe Rayo. Also, let me welcome aboard those of you who are watching from the free meteorologist Joe Chaffee weather app, which you can download on Google Play or on the App Store. Joe Rayo doesn't doesn't even have his first morning cup of tea without checking my notifications. He
Absolutely.
Yes, he lives by them religiously.
I'm trying to just hang on for a second, Joe. I'm trying.
Sure.
Oh, where is it? Oh, there. My the background.
Hang on, I'm having trouble on
There,
my end too.
there it is. Okay, so now
Okay,
now we're
good.
yes.
I got I have new I haven't have them on yet. I have new headsets that I ordered. I'm going to be using them after tonight.
Yeah.
Well, because I break these things. It's amazing. I have for years this has been my problem. Earbuds, headsets, whatever they are. Even years ago the old Walkmans. You know, a month with me and they're
The
done. They're
history.
ruined.
Yeah.
So, uh, anywho, uh, this morning I went out while it was nice and sunny and temperatures got up above 70. And this was before noontime, and then we had this little front go by, and then suddenly the clouds came in. I didn't get a shower out of it, but the wind picked up, and the temperatures didn't climb anymore. They actually dropped a bit and went
Ac-
down into the 60s.
Actually, I spent a little bit of time when I looked at the radar. I said, "Look at that big swath of showers moving across Long Island," and yet all of the stations, Islip and Gorbatsky Airport and a few other places, had nothing. Just a lot of clouds. I said, "I guess this is Virga. I guess it's all a
Yeah,
lie."
it never made it to the ground because believe me, I saw the same swath on the radar you did, and yeah, it got gray. It didn't get really dark or anything like that. It got gray, and it looked like it was going to rain at any time, and it never did. So now we can move ahead because we have what looks like a week of below average temperatures. That's going to, I think, culminate in a rather cold Mother's Day weekend.
Yes.
And in fact, one of my regulars, Greg Carrigo, who watches down from Philadelphia, tweeted me something, just a reminder from Cranky Weather Guy about last year on Mother's Day,
Right.
and which was
I,
it was cold and rainy as I remember,
well, I got this.
or one of those weekend days. It was barely out of the 40s in most places.
I got the same. He was kind enough to send me the same thing, and over a 3 day period, I think it was from the 12th to the 14th of May, temperatures averaged 10 to 17 degrees below normal at Central Park.
Yep. And I seem to recall another Mother's Day in the last maybe 3 or 4 years ago that was another washout with a northeast wind and rain and temperatures that didn't get out of the 40s. Something about Mother's Day these last few years, because there was always that sort of unwritten rule that the sun had to be out on Mother's Day.
Incidentally, you mentioned how warm it was, and I'm looking at the Central Park observations, and at 11:51 when they took an observation, it was 70 degrees. At 12:51, it was 70 degrees. But apparently, sometime in that hour, that's when the temperature at Central Park jumped to 75, believe it or not.
Really, that's
And
odd.
then it went so 70 at 11:51, 70 at 12:51. The high today at Central Park 75, and temperature dropped 7 degrees from the 12:51 reading to the 2:51 reading, from 70 down to 63. It was 60 by the time we got to 3:51. So you could see it. It was one big shove of much chillier air that came in right after that little bulge of warmth into the middle part of the day today.
So kind of a little bit of a crazy day today, and now let's move ahead to you know this week. This whole pattern that we're seeing this week really just rubs it into snow lovers. It really is. It is about as it would be. It would be a gold mine in January. But
Right,
it really
right,
would, or in February, or even in the first part of March, the first half of March, it would have been a gold
correct.
mine. You can
Correct.
see the temperatures this evening across the Northeast, from Pennsylvania to southern New England, are generally in the 50s now, and you've got some chillier 40s when you go up in Northwest PA, and then heading up into upstate New York, in and around Utica, Rochester, Syracuse, all in the mid to upper 40s, and 40s and low 50s as you head up into New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine, and then moving to the south, we're looking at temperatures that are still a bit warmer. Uh, they're in the mid and upper 60s. You get down into Virginia, temperatures are in the 70s, and I'm just out of curiosity, I want to go a little further south because I talked to my daughter down in Georgia today, and temperatures in the 80s, low 80s in Atlanta. It's 82 right now, so it's mostly low and middle 80s in the Carolinas and Georgia, and I think they had a kind of a scorcher day in Florida today with temperatures in the upper 80s to around 90 degrees. So maybe or maybe not they opened the beaches up just in time for people to get some relief. But hopefully they're social distancing. But we are seeing the southeast and south are really, Joe, getting set up into a nice springtime pattern, and we are, they're getting the warm temperatures, and we're north of the boundary zone with that northern jet stream, and we're just going to be chilly and a little bit of severe weather tonight going on over parts of Oklahoma, southern Missouri, into western Tennessee. That's really the only area that we're seeing severe weather issues.
Right. Absolutely. I'm just typing some stuff in here to keep up with you.
Oh, okay. Well, I just pulled up the U.S. satellite loop,
I
and
wish there was a way that we could somehow get YouTube. So it's almost like the frustration
oh,
that
the delay.
the sports fans have now. You can't listen to the radio broadcast while watching the television because, again, as you mentioned, there is a delay of either several seconds to as much as a half a minute.
Right, but the YouTube delay is usually it's like 20 or 30 seconds. Sometimes it could be 2 minutes, so I can understand your frustration. But I got
Yes.
I got the U.S. satellite loop up right now, and we're seeing a big blow up of the showers and thunderstorms back into the Central Plains and Middle Mississippi Valley, but also seeing the clouds up in New England and upstate New York with this little front that moved through today. So we're kind of sandwiched in between. A little bit of clearing going on from central New Jersey down into Virginia, North Carolina. The Southwest is nice and cloud virtually cloud free. It's also going to be hot down in parts of Southern California and into southwestern Arizona. We've got the action, though. If you take a look at the flow, uh, the weather systems are moving right along. You've got one off the coast. You've got this second one. This is going to be headed our way now for late Tuesday night into Wednesday night, and then you've got a system coming into the Pacific Northwest, and that's going to be impacting our weather for the end of the week.
And this week, Joe, I think if you overlook tomorrow, I was telling my wife, I said tomorrow's going to be the last, if you want to call it mild day, even though it's still tomorrow's going to be about 5 or 6 degrees below the norm, but at least we'll get into the 60s, I think, tomorrow. And then from Wednesday right on through next Monday, temperatures are going to be in the 50s. And that Wednesday through Monday interval, I think here in the Hudson Valley, we're going to be averaging about 12 degrees below normal. It's really it's not a very happy time in this month of May with
No,
these temperatures so much longer lower than normal.
and depending on how much rain falls, in both of these weather systems, depending on how much um, rain falls, we are going to see there might be some stretches in there where temperatures are just going to kind of find their way into the 40s while the rain is coming down. Here's the action tonight on the radar, and of course you can see still some scattered activity in parts of the Northeast and moving offshore. You've got the system moving through the Central Plains. Some rain up in North Dakota and South Dakota and into western Iowa. You've got some showers and storms, southern Illinois down into western Tennessee, where we've got those watches. There's a line of storms now firing up in Oklahoma, northeast southwest. It looks like that line's going to probably go through Tulsa. It's developing mainly east of Oklahoma City. but that is moving east, and those cells look pretty potent. It's 7:10 Eastern time, folks. If you're watching this on a replay later on tonight, be sure to go to your local National Weather Service forecast office page, and you can find that on weather.gov so that you could have the latest weather information regarding what's going on severe weather wise. So, WPC, I'm sorry, SPC, Joe, tonight, where we've seen those showers and storms and where we see that line firing up, that's where SPC has enhanced risk of severe weather, eastern Oklahoma, northwestern Arkansas, southwest Missouri, and, of course, it's got that boomerang shape like we talked about last night. So the eastern end of that actually extends into Georgia and South Carolina, and the southwest end of it goes back down into Texas. But as we move on through the rest of this week, it doesn't seem like we'll be seeing too much happening with respect to severe weather. Tomorrow, a marginal risk for eastern Tennessee, western North and South Carolina, northern Georgia, northeast Alabama, and another small area down in Louisiana and southeast Texas. On Wednesday into Thursday, we're seeing very little in the way of thunderstorm activity, let alone severe weather. And on the day 4 through 8, it looks like day 4 and 5, predictability too low. 6, 7, and 8, the potential is too low.
And I think that's pretty good considering the fact that, how can thunderstorms really gain a foothold when the temperatures are just so darn chilly or downright cold in the eastern half of the country, especially? You're going to see any action during the next 6 or 7 days after we get past today or tomorrow. You're going to have to go out west or look out west for that to happen.
The jet is so far south. I mean, really, it's so far south. I got SPC's jet stream upper air maps that I've been using lately, and this is at Wednesday morning when we've got this upper low that's going to be in eastern Ohio. This is going to be our next storm system that runs up. The low is going to go into across the Ohio Valley, redevelop off the Mid-Atlantic coast, pass by to our south and east, and we're going to get some rain out of that. And of course, there's an onshore flow to deal with. You've got more energy coming into the northwest, and that is going to be the next weather system for Friday. What struck me, by the way, Mr. Rayo, is that it's, I mean, it's just uncanny the way the surface sets up here because, again, because it's May, we just knew going into this spring that this was going to rub salt into the wound for snow lovers at least. But I mean, look at this. So you got this low for later tomorrow afternoon is already into Kentucky. You've got this nice high south of James Bay, wedging in some cooler air. You get the onshore flow. The surface low goes into West Virginia, then finds its way off the mid-Atlantic coast. It starts to gel up a bit as it moves northeastward during the day on Wednesday, so we'll get some rain out of that, and then it pulls out. And by the way, I should mention to you, I didn't mention this to you from the beginning. Last night here at about 2 a.m., oh, talk about thunderstorms, Joe. We had massive thunder and lightning. Uh, I mean, not a whole lot of rain out of it, but those thunderstorms we had last night were loud.
Really? Yeah, we got nothing of the sort here.
Yeah, this
Okay.
it came up from this, stuff developed across Maryland into southern New Jersey, and then arced northeastward, and it clipped my part of Long Island. It was quite loud. Now this low pulls out, we dry up into Friday, but look at this already. Here comes the next one, and this one actually is going to probably intensify quite a bit as it moves up into Maine on Saturday. The GFS actually wants to have snow up in northern New England and also through parts of upstate New York and western Pennsylvania. I think if this is right, if this is as deep as it is, Saturday is going to be a windy day here. I mean, probably 30 to 40 in gusts with
I
from the northwest
I
and
agree.
cold. Temperatures probably upper 40s and low 50s, maybe mid 50s in some of the warmer spots. But it's remember, folks, we should be up into the middle 60s on a regular basis now. By the time I think the normal high around May 10th or 11th is right around 70 in New York City. So this stuff should have been long gone by now. And then of course Mother's Day, it'll be still kind of windy even into Sunday afternoon. Still showing a rather tight gradient. There's a 979 low over Nova Scotia. I mean, Jesus, seriously? At a 1029 high, this is at 2 a.m. on Sunday, a 1029 high in eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina. It's just nuts. It's just nuts.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, this is something that we managed to. We went through the whole winter, and I said all winter long, I said, "You watch what's going to happen when we get to April." And I said that half in jest. I never in my wildest dreams would expect that not only do we do the flip in April, but for it to continue into May. And Joe, the 6 to 10 day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center has our region of the country in a 90% probability of below normal temperatures. And in fact, from the 12th to the 14th, they're indicating a 20% chance of very, very cold temperatures or near record temperatures for this time of the year. It's amazing.
It's an utterly ridiculous upper air. I'm looking. I have the 500 millibar chart up for next Sunday morning, where you have a big upper high in northwest Canada on the border with Alaska. You have a cutoff high in Greenland. Okay, you have a deep low in the Gulf of Alaska with a trough off the west coast, ridge up the west coast. The jet stream flow comes pretty much right out of the Arctic around a vortex sitting over New England. You couldn't you couldn't make this up. You just
Yeah.
couldn't. And going into next week, I mean that trough in the east holds. If you notice, folks, if you look up in the entire Arctic region, for the most part, and into the North Atlantic, you've got above normal pressures in that whole area. That means the jet is suppressed well to the south of where it should be, and we got to look for signs now to see if this pattern is even going to I mean, all patterns will break down. I mean, eventually this will go away. The question is, the question is when. I don't know what I did
And
here, but here we go. There we go. So you're looking at the upper air. It kind of flattens out a bit later next week, but in fact, I guess you could make the case that around the 15th or 16th, that weekend of the 16th, 17th, the GFS wants to keep popping up a ridge off the southeast coast at that point. So maybe that will be where the switch gets flipped a bit. If this is correct after the middle of the month, maybe we will start to see. We'll see this pattern go away and go into something a little more, how shall we say, May-ish.
I just noticed on the chat board, Joe, Dennis Cassia posted something which was picked up by Mrs. Rayo, who's also on the chat board right now. One of the things that I look forward to every year has just gotten, Dennis just announced that it has been canceled, and that is Stellophane. Now, Stellophane, to put it in a short perspective here, is literally a Woodstock with telescopes. Every year in the mid and late summer, up in around Springfield, Vermont, hundreds of assiduous amateur astronomers and stargazers gather to listen to talks during the day under a big tent, and then at night the skies are nice and dark, and people, are looking at things through their telescopes, and some of them are rather large. And I look forward to this every year. And apparently, Dennis, who's very involved with Stellophane, just posted on the chat board for me, and also my wife just saw it too, is that it's been canceled. And need I tell you why it's been canceled?
Yes.
It was supposed to be in mid-August, and apparently the powers that be in Vermont don't think that there should be any social gatherings even that late into the summer. So there you go.
Oh well. Okay. Even you can't even go to Bob Newhart's Inn. So
Yeah, so we all have golf clubs, and we're going to aim the ball at Bob's head, right?
right. All right. So really quick, Johnny Quest wants to know. What causes a low to transfer its energy to a storm along the coast?
Well, in the upper atmosphere, it's kind of like what can I say? Like a football player lateraling the ball to another player, and especially so when you have such a difference, the warm or relatively warm Atlantic Ocean versus, let's say, a very cold continental surface in the wintertime. And you've got these upper level troughs that are coming on through. The ocean acts like almost like steroids. The atmosphere literally will take in all of the energy sitting over that warm surface of water and allowing that to deepen, so to speak.
Right. So
It's
you get
kind
a
of difficult.
second. It's a little complicated. The topography also plays a role in that. The pressure field essentially a lot of times gets stretched out. So you get this sort of the center rather than wanting to fight its way through the mountains, you wind up getting a new center that forms on the other side and moves on to the northeast. And yeah, it's also because of the ocean. That's where you're going to see you're usually going to wind up seeing your greatest temperature contrast. A coastal front develops sometimes where you get
Right.
a bit of a warm front. You suddenly start getting massive pressure falls. So it just sort of naturally wants to gravitate to those falling pressures, and you get the low. The primary low winds up dying out, and suddenly a new low pops up out to the east. It's tough to it's easier when we get to the winter months. You see that more often. We can illustrate it a bit better when we have more time. I just wanted to give them the
What
short answer.
really is great is when you have a very potent Pacific system coming onshore at the Pacific coast. It literally is pushing right, toward the east. It runs into the Rocky Mountains,
Right.
which puts to 10 and 12,000 feet high, and it's kind of like taking a jigsaw puzzle and dropping the puzzle on the ground, and it's splattering all over the place. As the storm moves across the Rockies, it gets
All
torn. Or,
distorted and torn apart, and then it
right,
reforms on the other side. It's the
right.
same idea.
Right. And it kind of puts itself back together, but it may not put itself back together the same way than what it was when it was entering the Pacific coast. So it's these are things that you have to take into account when you're forecasting. We don't live in a country where everything is flat, and the mountainous terrain and the oceans and the Gulf of Mexico all play a role in how these air masses develop, intensify, or shrivel up or whatever. It's kind of amazing, and thank goodness we have the computers which can work on these problems just like
Yeah.
just like that, as opposed to man-made. Back in the day, 50, 70, well, not 50, but maybe 75 or 100 years ago, when they were trying to do forecasts, it was more a method of extrapolation and interpolation from one part of the country to the other, and not taking into account the mountains or the effects of the warm or cool waters on any of these weather systems.
Christinapedia, I did hear those storms last night. They were pretty wicked. Right around 2 a.m. Uh, woke me up. I was not a happy camper. So
Yeah.
let's do a little Briller Jeopardy tonight, and then we'll call it quits early because you got things to do. So how many different series were spun off from All of the Family, and can you name them all?
Well, we had the Jeffersons.
Right?
Jefferson. Now the Jeffersons spun off Good Times. I guess that's would
Two.
that would that category. That would fall into the same
I don't
category.
know that the Jeffersons did. No, I think Maud spun off Good Times.
Maud spun off Good Times. That's right, because Florida was the maid,
Right,
and she moved on to Good. All right. So
and Maud was off of All in the Family, so that's three.
right, right.
That's three.
Um, would you count 704 Hauser Street, which
Yes, that's
came like
four.
20 or 30 years after the
Yeah,
fact?
that's four.
That's four. Gloria,
Five.
five. Um, I don't know if that. I don't remember anything else.
Two more.
There were two more.
Yeah,
Really?
Archie Bunker's Place.
What was it?
Archie Bunker's Place.
Archie Bunker's place. Yeah, but you know what? All right, that was different because
Okay, and then a
Edith.
show that I don't even remember called Checking In.
I don't remember checking in at
Yeah.
all. It must have been a very short live series.
Yes.
I wish they'd show Archie Bunker's place. One of the saddest things I ever saw on television, even if it was a situation comedy, was the episode where
Edith
Archie
died.
goes Archie goes into the bedroom and sees Edith's slippers in the bedroom. This is after Edith passed away, and he put on a really dramatic
Yeah, I
performance.
remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
you can't even find that on YouTube. I don't know why that is, but it's a sad episode.
Some of those special episodes in series, they hide them. So they bring them out whenever the day comes that they'll get to bring them out.
Right.
All right. So anyway, we're cutting it short tonight. In fact, the live streams this week will probably all be cut short because the Mets are playing a World Series that they won. It's just so.
They're on all of this week for all of the Met fans out there who are unaware. And if you've been watching SNY, that's all you've been seeing are Met highlights, and they're rerunning the same highlights. So I've seen Johan Santana's no hitter at least 5 times since this pandemic started. But now what they're going to do is they're going to run a World Series game each night from 1969. Of course, that series went 5 games, so 5 days this week. Tonight is game one of the '69 series. And believe it or not, Joe, and I don't think the Yankees would ever do this on Yes. This is a game that the Mets actually lost. You usually see on Met highlights or Yankee highlights games that they've won. This is a game that the Mets are going to lose because they lost the first game of the World Series. Also, interestingly, I find is that the first 2 games of this series are going to be in glorious black and white. They're kinescopes. They were black and white films taken off of
Off
a
the
TV
TV
screen.
set, yes.
And so tonight and tomorrow night they'll be in glorious black and white, and then on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday there'll be the original color videotapes from the series at Shea Stadium. So if you're a Met fan, this is your week. 5 nights. Each night the game will start at 7:30, and it starts in 3 minutes. So I'm going to be vamoosing in a very short time.
All right, well,
To,
go Vamoose. We'll see everybody tomorrow at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for being here tonight, everybody. We will see you tomorrow. Good night.
99.